Good day, my friends! In the feature today, we will be looking at the first cartoon appearance of that classic Spider-Man villain, the Vulture! Squawk! Or something. So, alright, let's go!
Yeah! So we start off at the Daily Bugle offices, where Peter Parker, Betty Brant, and J. Jonah Jameson are witnessing a gaggle of vultures terrorize the city! Or, I guess more accurately, just kind of fly around the city somewhat, menacingly. And these vultures are somehow led by a flying man in a vulture suit, known as the Vulture. Not just any run-of-the-mill vulture, no, he's the Vulture. So Spider-Man wonders how the Vulture is controlling all these other vultures. I thought it was just an inner dialogue, but I guess not, because the Vulture, like an idiot, answers Spider-Man's question. Vulture is able to control the other vultures with this brainwashing sonic device attached to his head. And why would you tell somebody your secrets, right? Seriously, basically what he said is, hey, if you want to defeat me, this is the source of my power. I wonder if that will bite him in the ass later on. So after a quick little tussle and a punch to Spider-Man's face, the Vulture takes off to City Hall, where he demands the city of New York gives him $2 million, or else he will shut down the entire city with his limited amount of vultures. You could probably shut down a city block, maybe a couple blocks, but an entire city the size of New York? Good luck, bud. So, of course, J. Jonah Jameson believes that Spider-Man is in cahoots with the Vulture, and as per usual, has no evidence to back it up. Man, come on, Jameson, just give up the ghost already, right? Geez, how many times has Spider-Man actually saved your life in this cartoon series, and you still think he's a crook? Come on! But Jameson also learns that the mayor refuses to pay the $2 million to the Vulture. So the Vulture is pissed, and he takes his revenge out on Spider-Man, where they destroy some steel girders on a building being constructed. A taste of things to come, I guess? And if that wasn't bad enough, Jameson also learns that the window washers refuse to wash the windows of the Daily Bugle building due to the demands of the Vulture. The genius of the Vulture's plan is coming into fruition. Today, the windows. Tomorrow, another set of windows? But, that gives Peter Parker a great idea. Become a window washer to get some extra cash. The Daily Bugle only pays so much, right? Well, that and the fact that he, as Spider-Man, is using this as a trap to lure out the Vulture. Because there's nothing more that Vulture hates than, building maintenance, So after quick little tussle with Spider-Man getting the upper hand, Vulture calls out his foul to avenge him. So Spidey takes off. Meanwhile, turns out that the mayor has agreed to pay the $2 million to the Vulture. And the Vulture, for some reason, wants the ransom paid in two $1 million bills. I guess that's easier to fly around than having a briefcase full of cash, so yeah, I guess. And the ransom payments will be happening tonight on top of the Empire State Building. Later that evening, on top of the Empire State Building, the cash drop-off is made and Spider-Man has a last-ditch fight with the Vulture. But Spider-Man has a plan up his sleeve. He puts a device on Vulture's head to tamper with his bird-controlling sonic signal. So of course, during the fight, Vulture gets pissed off and calls his boys to finish off Spider-Man. The sonic signal buster works! The Vultures attack the Vulture instead. So after being clawed up and pecked for a while, the Vulture takes off with his former bird friends in hot pursuit. So the $2 million is recovered by Spider-Man, the Vulture is gone, and the day is saved. Hooray! And with that is the end of this spectacular tale.
So yes indeed, hey, a pretty entertaining cartoon. And the Vulture is pretty classic in this one, right? I remember even watching these reruns as a kid, man, thinking that the Vulture is just like such an awesome character. Pretty cool costume, he has a pretty big goofy grin, and like his voice is perfect for a super-villain in a cartoon. He's menacing, he's crazy, he's hilarious. A pretty decent plan, you know, for a bunch of birds to attack New York City. Like, he must have been inspired by that Alfred Hitchcock classic movie, The Birds, where every single bird around the world got together and decided, you know what? We don't want the humans ruling this planet anymore. Now it's our turn. And so they did. But for this plan for the Vulture-Man, like, you know, it's kind of interesting, right? For one, like I've mentioned, you know, he doesn't have that many vultures in his flock. In this cartoon series, we have seen people shoot guns, and I don't think that, you know, vultures are impenetrable to bullets, you know? So, pretty sure the humans can win in that regard. Also, like, vultures, right? Like, they're dangerous, I guess, but they're not as dangerous as you might think. Like an eagle or a hawk, man, those things are crazy. Those things will kill you, right? But like a vulture, not quite. Like, for example, like an eagle or a hawk, you know, those things have really sharp talons, really sharp beaks, because they need to kill their prey, right? Vultures are scavengers. They go after things that are already dead, so they don't have these sharp weapons, you know, like the other birds do.
Also, vultures do not attack. If they are attacked, they do have a defense mechanism known as projectile vomiting, which I feel like we were cheated out of seeing that. It would have made a pretty interesting episode. Also, that probably explains why the window washers refused to work.
The Vulture demanded $2 million from the city. Not a really high, ridiculous number, you know, but it doesn't have to be $100 million, you know, or anything like that. You could have a pretty nice life on $2 million, you know, make some investments that are pretty smart. And let's just put this in a bit of perspective, right? Like, he asked for $2 million in 1967. That much money in 2024 dollars would be $18.4 million. I'm not gonna sneeze at $18.4 million, you know, but like $18.4 million bucks nowadays won't even get you a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball for a year. But indeed, man, the Vulture, a classic Spider-Man villain. In fact, the second villain that Spider-Man ever faced in his own comic book. Super-villain anyway. So if you haven't checked it out, I suggest you do so. And with that, there's a whole bunch more information about the Vulture and all that kind of stuff, you know, over here.
So yes, indeed, the Vulture! So how did this bird breath villain come to be? Well, there are actually quite a few answers. And it is a longer answer than you would think. The first time that Marvel Comics used a villain named the Vulture was way back in the day. It was back in the golden age of comics when Marvel Comics was originally called Timely Comics. And the first time we seen a villain named Vulture first appeared in Captain America Comics number 14 in 1942. That Vulture was Hugh Bradley. He was a successful businessman who, for some reason, allied himself with Imperial Japan. And of course, this was during World War II, so not a good thing for America. Bradley and a bunch of Imperial Japanese soldiers disguised themselves as Native Americans to infiltrate the United States, with Bradley taking on a disguise on top of his disguise of a vulture. So Captain America and Bucky got together with a bunch of their indigenous friends who did not like their culture being abused in such a way, and defeated Bradley and his Imperial friends. 1942. The second time we see a villain called a Vulture was in Young Men number 26 in 1953. Still in the golden age of comics when Marvel Comics was known as Atlas Comics. The Vulture in this story was Dr. Isidoro Scarlatti, who was an atomic scientist and a criminal mastermind known as the Caesar of the International League of Criminals. So this dude was big time, man. He was building the most devastating atomic bomb ever conceived. And he had a vulture looking kind of a mask to disguise his true identity. And this time, the hero who thwarted him and his plans was the original Human Torch, Jim Hammond, and his sidekick, Toro. So at this point, my friends, we're getting close. The third time that we see a villain named the Vulture was in the Silver Age of comics, when Marvel Comics was known as Marvel Comics. And this Vulture first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man #2 in 1963. This Vulture was Adrian Toomes, a powerful businessman and inventor who was swindled out of his company by his business partner, Gregory Bestman, and Toomes lost completely everything. All he had were his inventions, but he did happen to invent this flying harness, which gave him the ability of flight, gave him super strength, somehow gave him longer life, a little bit, I guess, and it made him look really snazzy. So he used this new costume and harness to go on a crime spree, but was thwarted by the heroics of Spider-Man. Spider-Man's solution to defeat the Vulture in this comic was similar to that of the featured episode. In both instances, Spider-Man used a device to disrupt the Vulture's power. In the cartoon, it was to disrupt the bird-controlling sonic waves, and in the comic, it was to disrupt the power source of Vulture's flying harness. We're almost there, folks. We're almost there. So that Vulture was pretty awesome and pretty impressive, but not quite the Vulture that we've seen in this featured episode. No! So the second Silver Age Vulture was Raniero Drago. Drago first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man #48 in 1967. Drago was a punk and a 2-bit crook who shared a jail cell with Adrian Toomes, and he tricked Toomes into telling him where he keeps his Vulture suit. So Drago broke out of prison, got to the suit, and became the second Silver Age Vulture. And he is the Vulture that you see in this featured episode. The only difference to the costume that he made was his helmet. That was a new addition. And it was pretty cool, right? Because the helmet looked kind of menacing. It also looked quite fashionable, and it had the added sense of safety. So right on. And at this point, you might be thinking, why did the cartoon start off with the second Silver Age Vulture? Why not just start off with Adrian Toomes? Well, this episode came out in 1967, and at that point in the comics, the Vulture was Drago. But fret not, Toomes would be back in the future. The other interesting thing about this episode was the inclusion of the $1 million bill. My God, that's like a bit excessive, eh? And also quite fake. There never was a $1 million bill in United States currency. No! Not any legal ones anyway. There was some $1 million bills made for promotions of whatever silly thing was going on somewheres, but as the Bill O states, it's not legal tender. The largest bill that was ever produced for US currency was the $10,000 bill. There was plans for a $100,000 bill, but that never actually happened. And these bills weren't exactly like dollar bills per se, they were gold certificates. This is when the United States observed the gold standard. So it was a lot easier to pay with gold with these gold certificates rather than bringing out a pallet full of gold bars, right? And these bills being so big, you know, they were never made available to the public. They were mostly used for like the government or like banks or any institutions such as that. But eventually, these gold certificates stopped being printed and distributed and used in the 1940s. So I wonder if that's what they were kind of going for in this episode with those $1 million bills, if they were just gold certificates? Because if you're gonna make a massive crime, where are you gonna get change for $1 million bill? Does seem kind of dumb, but oh well. But that's pretty much everything with the Vulture up to this point, you know, of 1967. There will be a lot more of the Vulture in the future, mostly Adrian Toomes and a lot of different variations of him as the Vulture, but we will get to those later. So with this, that, those, and the other thing, things? I guess let's buy it. Also, if you guys are interested, I created my own superhero show and I have the first episode out already. The Adventures of the Density. So if you guys would like to check it out, I'll have a link above here and a link at the end of the video for you to peruse there. Yeah, right on, and there you go. So thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it as much as I did making it. Also, feel free to check out the source material that I featured in this video. And if you want to leave a comment on anything you may have liked or things I might have missed in this, feel free to do so. Or anything else, just to say hi. That's cool too. And other than that, have a great day. Thanks.